Okay. We'll call November 9th, 2023 Finance IT Committee order. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll do that.
For a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Are there any public comments? Seeing none. Myron?
So we've got the renewal in, and I'll just go over kind of the basics of it. So I did a kind of just a spreadsheet so we can show you where we're at on everything. So if you look at the 23-24 renewal in the first column there, after the deductibles, you compare that to the 22-23 renewal from last year. So the expiring renewal from last year was $304,000, and the renewal this year is $362,000. That's a 19% increase, and I'll tell you what our thoughts on the whole deal. So if you look at your auto count, we're up 11%, which is driving that premium there. And every time we increase something, we're increasing the price of the excess, which is your excess liability policy, which is protecting your risk. So your auto count is up 11%, your employee count is up 17%, and then your law is up 36%, payroll's up 25%, and overall the liability for excess is up 43%, driven by all of those things that we just mentioned. Not to mention what's happening in the society right now is that the rates for excess is really high right now. So premiums are high to begin with, then we add all of this stuff up, it's driving that premium up to the $362,000 mark. So if you flip the page, you can see the work comp. Just to speak to the work comp a little bit, this is really good. If you look at the modifier, your experience modifier, you're at a 0.75, which is really good. We've managed that over the years and got that down. And if you can see the premium discount there towards the bottom, you got a 10% premium discount. So your payroll is up, and that's what work comp is driven off of. But your percentage overall for work comp isn't terrible. So it was managed by that credit. So that's the good news on that. The next page over is where it kind of just puts it all together, and that's your whole package is the 362,590. I've also included the loss runs on the back side of everything. It gives you all of the claims that you had, and this is kind of how the premium it affects the premium as well. So it goes back 5 years, and it kind of takes into consideration where we're heading on things. We've had some really good things happening with the jail and the law officers. The sheriff's done a great job working with the insurance company. I think there's been some money that has been available for the sheriff through the insurance company to help. I believe these guys are doing a great job to try and help manage the risks. But the overall news is that the way things are trending, they're looking out for possible payout. And given the history and given the averages, they're protecting that in the liability portions of the premiums. Are there any questions? Jill has a full copy of the proposal, and I'll leave extra copies with Jill. Should you guys want them, you'll have them. I just don't want to pile a bunch of papers on you. I just wanted to kind of give you the nuts and bolts of where we're at for the renewal. And I'd be willing to meet with you guys if you want to discuss it further and kind of itemize things and show how we were getting to that premium. I'd be willing to do that as well. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions on it? He's not here. here. So. We're up to department head. So we may as well start with Jill, who's on that side.
Well, I emailed out the completed cipher, which is a grant audit that we need to input into the GATA portal to maintain our grant numbers. So that has been all completed finally for FY '22. I did feel a little bit better when I was talking to Hope, and she said, oh, we're still trying to finish up regular audits for some of our clients for FY '22, so we officially put that to bed. So we're gonna get ready here pretty soon to start the FY '23 audit. The budget, I haven't had any feedback from any public or any department head, county board member, so I will have copies for all of the board members on Tuesday, as well as department heads for final approval for the budget for next year.
Is this insurance within our budget, the
Um,
increase?
we budgeted 350, but there's always a contingency line in there to allow for additional or, anything else we may need, so, I
So,
believe we're gonna
yes
be
and no.
okay, yes, but I'll look at it again before Tuesday. For sure.
Anybody got any questions for her?
Probably should have asked Myron before he left, but this 362,590, that's the total. It's on the third page of this, but you say budget was 350? Okay.
And I
That's
think
the
he's out in the
whole-
hall talking to John, if we wanna bring him back in.
Well, I'll just go see if he's out there. Yeah, he says that's the whole thing except for the cyber, which is separate. So we'd be like 12,000 over for the budget.
And what's,
And he said he'd be happy to meet with us to talk about it some more if we wanted to, so.
usually what's in the contingency, about 50?
Yeah.
Any other questions? We'll just go right on down the line, so.
Okay, so I, a little bit of a repeat of what I said at tax, but the CAMA and aerial RFPs are posted on the website. They were posted on November 7th. I have emailed some vendors to ask them to submit a sealed bid. And everything, deadline for all responses is November 27th. So hopefully if everything moves forward, we can have something in place then to get those programs established by the first of the year. Other than that, we're finishing up the divisions and consolidations in the office, which then I can apply equalization to have a more concrete EAV number. But what I gave Jill is pretty accurate, I think, so. That's all I have.
Anybody got any questions? Okay.
All right, the ETSB met last night. They approved their budget, which is already in with the rest of the county's budget, so that'll all move forward. They decided to move their meetings from usually the first Wednesday to the first Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. instead of 5. So we're going to be burning a little bit more of a midnight oil. 911, for the next generation 911, we moved to what's called the EZNet. That is, so 911 phone calls come in, they have a little bit of a different traffic, which is less of an issue for when the internet goes out, or if we were to suffer another fiber outage. I've got more redundancy in with that, so 911 calls, not that they won't go unanswered, because they were hitting to Kankakee County or CANCOM. But again, more redundancy, which is always a good thing, and something we were heading to, period, whether we like it or not. The next thing that's on the horizon is text to 911 for Iroquois County. We're working on that. That is going through a state bid that's already out there. It's going to be integrated with our phone system that we've already got, so that's going to be more good things. I expect that's probably going to be going live in the next 6 to 8 months. Other than that, questions?
Don't see any. So, all right, Sheriff?
Now let Bree go first.
Okay.
He talks a lot, let me go first.
Okay, so filing's going to begin the last week of November, or the Monday after the Thanksgiving holiday. So anyone that's going to be running, just remember that's when filing begins. We are going to have a demonstration of new election equipment in the county boardroom on November 20th. If anyone's interested in coming in to see what the new equipment looks like, it's going to be from 9 to 7 that day. Just an open house. Anyone can come in just, again, to see the new equipment and show you how it works. It's basically the same as the old stuff, just newer. The tax committee has tentatively approved numbers for levy. You're going to be talking about that at the full board meeting, but they are looking at, from the levy worksheets Jill provided, a 108.19% increase. So that's going to trigger a truth and taxation hearing. So we'll have to set that hearing at the county board meeting so we can get the publication sent out and notify anyone that is required to be notified. So just keep that in mind that we will be talking about that on Tuesday. Lastly, Kurt wasn't at tax and he's obviously not here today, but he did have to move the tax sale, the annual tax sale for the delinquent taxes. So it's normally the last Monday of October, but it had to be moved to November 21st is when it's slated to be held. There was an issue, and I'm not 100% sure what the issue was, but just informing that that tax sale did get moved from October to November. And that's all I have.
Anybody got any questions? Oh, you had your chance.
Alright. So the installer is working on getting the Tahoes up and upfitted. So he's got a lot of things, a lot of other people that he's working with, so. Talking with Verizon rep this afternoon about the push to talk. I've been carrying around this other demo phone, and it's been working pretty well. So it's kind of a backup to a backup. Just for another another situation for the radios. The X-ray scanner at the courthouse has been installed on 10/17. We should be making the final payment to Central Square on the CAD system probably within the next month, I would say. Yeah, 2 months. Okay. I think is there a claim for a Secure Tech for the courthouse? Okay, that's for an upgrade for the courthouse security, the push button system. So it's I brought this up to the ARPA committee last year. We had got a quote for all 3 buildings, actually the courthouse, jail, admin center, and the county highway. So that push button system that we have at the courthouse is you push the button and it goes out over our sheriff's main channel. and it'll say, assistance needed at the circuit clerk's office or state attorney's office. We had money in the courthouse security funds, so I think that's a very needed upgrade. The judge is actually introducing trying to get a grant for some security measures at the courthouse as far as cameras outside and an upgrade on the fob system. So I think it's a good option. It's a modular system that will allow us to add the admin center onto that if we want to. No cash bail started on 9/18. We're seeing a decrease in population. Today's population was 14. I think in the last couple of months it's been around 22 to 25. So, and that's not uncommon for any other counties that I've talked to. So they're seeing a reduction of populations, a third to a half. So I know we've talked about the radios in the past. We had a meeting with Starcom and with Kenwood a month and a half ago. I've got representatives from Motorola and Chi-Com. So I had them at the last full board meeting if anybody had any questions. I know there's a few board members that talked with them. They're kind of explaining that at the end of 2023, some of the items in the pricing would go away. So I wanted to see if we can get a decision on that. We had Ryan Baum, the sheriff of Livingston County, at that meeting with Starcom and Kenwood. They switched from a digital system or VHF to Starcom, and he said it's made a world of difference. So we've got the information in front of you as far as the prices. We talked last meeting about if we were able to do our own financing and how much that would cost. We were able to get the price down about $125,000 from that quote. So I did receive an indication that there is $500,000 worth of funding for the Starcom system that I'm able to get locally. So that will help pay that down by a third almost. So
What's the total you got on it?
the total was 1.98 or 1,980,358.76. So, you guys want to entertain these guys talking, or would you guys like to ask them questions?
Why don't they give a brief overview, that way we know what questions to ask.
That sounds good. I mean, I've presented it several times, so there's a lot of things, information out there.
Sure thing. So for anyone who doesn't know me already, my name is Alex Anklem. I'm one of the direct representatives from Motorola Solutions. We've been working with the sheriff over, I think it's been a little over a year at this point, working with myself as well as Randy Sweats, who's from Chicago Communications. And so, over the last, year plus, we've been working with the sheriff, better understanding what are the challenges that the county faces today from a communication perspective. There's a few kind of key issues, one of which is reliability. Maybe in the past you've heard of some of the recordings that have been made on the existing sheriff's radio system. It's pretty chilling stuff when you hear just basically dead air come across. Somebody could be talking, somebody could be calling for help, and you'd have no idea what they're saying, no idea who's talking at that time. In addition, there's also coverage deficiencies, so depending on kind of where you are within the county today, you may or may not be able to communicate. Then also reliability and also interoperability. So if you have large-scale incidents, like we've talked about in the past, where there was a manhunt in a cornfield, and state police comes in, other agencies come in, and the sheriff's office is really not able to talk to any of those surrounding or any of those responding units. And so basically the solution that we've proposed will fix all of those issues and then some. So it's the Starcom system, which is the state-owned and maintained radio system, which not only is going to offer you really countywide radio coverage, so you're able to communicate, call back to dispatch, call back for help in really any situation. It also is something that's going to be able to work from day one. So typically whenever you look at a different type of radio system, there's always going to be a build-up time where you're putting in new towers, you're putting in new infrastructure, where there's an existing coverage footprint within the county today, which would, from day one, improve communications and improve safety within the county. So that's a really unique thing that Motorola can offer, where there's existing coverage footprint within the county today, and then we are proposing adding in 2 additional sites, which will kind of permanently increase the coverage and increase the communications within the county, which is something that really only Motorola can offer. It's a system that's being monitored 24/7, 365, so you never have to worry about if something goes wrong or something goes down. Motorola is constantly monitoring the solution to make sure that we're able to be out there and have somebody fixing it and have your communications back up and running as soon as humanly possible. And lastly, interoperability. How easy is it to communicate with state police and other nearby agencies like Kankakee County, for example, and with Livingston County, for example. So both of those agencies, as well as the state police, are already on the STARCOM system. So you don't have to worry about how am I going to be able to communicate with state police? How am I going to communicate with Kankakee County Sheriff, for example? You're already on the same system. So all you have to do is just simply change a channel or just, for example, create a patch of dispatch, which makes it as simple as it possibly can be. So I'd say those are kind of the main 3 benefits of what Motorola can offer and what the STARCOM system can offer, which is certainly different than what I think almost any other vendor can offer from a radio system perspective. Randy, I'm not sure if you have anything else to add.
The only other thing to add would be coverage eastward. So one of the things the sheriff has brought to our attention is the number of chases or pursuits that went into Indiana. With our solution, the devices would be able to switch to an LTE or cellular platform and continue that chase into Indiana and coordinate through dispatch with Indiana entities to help in that apprehension. So Alex said it very well. It's an immediate benefit. As soon as the radios arrive, as soon as they're activated and distributed, your officers will be on the air and much better protected than they are today.
Yeah, but one last thing to add there is that this system is also very scalable as well. So right now we're primarily talking about it through the lens of the sheriff's offices as well as various different police departments. But it's extremely easy to add on additional users should they want to come to STARCOM down the road. Nobody has to go to STARCOM if they don't want to, but if they decide down the road, the system's working really well, the coverage is much better than what we experience right now. Any other agency within Iroquois County would also be able to take advantage of that STARCOM system as well. So it's not only a solution that can benefit, law enforcement. Any other agency within the county can also take advantage of it.
In that vein, the proposal that's in front of you is the big uplift to getting very, very close to full coverage across the county. So agencies and organizations such as Public Works or park districts are those that Alex is mentioning there. The other one is fire departments, of course. So once this network is fully on the air in about a year from the time it's set to go, those folks would be able to reap the benefits of what you're deciding today.
This 3rd bullet point on the 2nd page, 1 new tower site built on Wellington Water Tower. Who's paying for that?
STARCOM is, the initial proposal was that these 2 sites would be ours to own, operate, and maintain. And I said, I'm not interested in being a landlord. I don't want to shingle a roof or change oil in our generator. So I said, we've got to come back to the table with something different.
And then there's an allusion to received an indication that 500,000 would be awarded by grant. And then another on the 2nd page, so does that come off the 1,480,000 or is that 500,000 included in the 1,480,000?
That would come off of the total cost. The 500,000 come off of the total.
So it could possibly be less than $1 million, possibly.
I think the 1.4 would be including the 500,000.
So the project cost is 1.98. So 500 brings that down to 1.48.
And what do you think about the likelihood of that getting that grant? 500,000,
Excellent.
okay.
So the 500,000 is excellent. There's also additional grants that we'd be able to apply for that. I've got another gentleman that's helping me with talking to some other people for the funding.
And then it says income from villages, DCFS, et cetera, like we charge them a fee and it goes up every year?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So we're bringing in roughly 208,000 per year for the DCFS contract and the village contracts. So, and this encompasses all of the Iroquois County law enforcement, with the exception of Watseka Police. They can exist on their island. If they go outside, they switch to the digital system. But if they go further into Indiana, it may not work as well. They have the option that they could go with us with the StarCom, but this proposal does not include that. But it does include bringing in Clifton and Ashcombe, Narga, Sheldon, and Milford PD.
Okay. And you've been working on this since April of 2022, or maybe before even?
Actually before, because I think Randy and I started talking about the body cams, I think.
Late summer of 21.
Because I knew there were some body cam
22.
grants that were coming up, and we didn't know for sure at that time when we were gonna be mandated, so, and then that kind of morphed into this.
Okay.
And I had him listen to a couple of our radio transmissions. Have you guys ever heard some of the radio transmissions?
No.
If you don't mind, I would play a couple of those. This is on our current system. So here's the cams. There was a portable that was during a chase.
Charles 32, want to copy your radio traffic? Charles 32, 10-9. Charles 32, unable to copy. And for your bike on foot. Passport. All right, what's your exact location?
So our dispatchers have pretty keen ears from days and days and years on the radio, but their ears aren't that keen to be able to decipher some of that stuff. If I sit at home and I hear that, or I hear dispatch trying to call the officers on the radio with no response, it's a chilling thing.
So the last recording the sheriff played, I hope you have, sad to hear that you probably have goosebumps like I do, that's scary stuff. But they discussed the location there. Dispatcher was asking for exact location. Our solution includes that from day one. Mapping of that radio's location at the dispatch console. So, yeah, they won't have to be asking the officer where she or he is at that moment.
The portables that we've got in the quote, they also have Wi-Fi capabilities. So if we have all the schools in Iroquois County, there's 21 or 22 Wi-Fi addresses that we can have added into these radios. So if we have all the schools have one Wi-Fi address, we could essentially have just one of those channels clogged up. And so if we go in the deep depths of Milford High School or Central High School in the crater, our officers would have radio communications. Along with the cellular side of it, anywhere you can get cell service, you'll be able to get out, so.
So basically, one that says 211,000 for 7 years, so it's like a 7-year deal
That would be with our own financing,
that we pay annually,
correct?
and that's budgeted for? No.
It is not.
Well, it would be budgeted every year. I mean, it may not be in this year's budget, but every year we would budget it.
Correct. So they had asked me last meeting if we were able to finance this ourselves, borrow from ourselves as opposed to borrowing and doing the 7-year, 10-year deal from Starcom. If we could do that and pay ourselves back, it would be considerably less, and we were able to drop it $125,000.
Is it workable where we could do it ourselves?
That would be a Jill question.
John had asked me to take a look at some stuff yesterday, the day before, I don't remember. But, so we're working on it, we're in discussions, or Sheriff has spoke with Mr. Devine, and I have posed a question to the auditors about if this is something we could possibly do.
Okay.
And cost-wise to us annually, how much is there, whether we use their program or finance it ourselves?
If we did the financing through them, it was, and you'd have to tack the $125,000 on top of that, and then the 1.9% interest. So I think for
Our annual payment, how much difference is there?
$317,000 for the 7 years, $237 for 10 years.
317 for 7?
Yeah.
And what was the 10?
237.
And I think that's at the $1.9 million number, I believe.
Yes.
Oh, so there was
Yeah.
a recent increase because of additional units, so.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that would not include the $500,000 of.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what would be the interest rate?
If it's through us, it's 1.99% for 7 years.
Not 2%, 1.9.
Yeah.
The magic of 9.
Yes. It's that much better.
Yes, but if he gets a $500 grant, that would be everything.
Correct.
This is the radio you want, right? You've looked at a lot of them, this is the system you want to use, right?
I think with all the added benefits of the officer's location, with the cellular, with the Wi-Fi, with the system that is time tested throughout the state of Illinois, for the most part, I think this is the way to go. You know, I talked to Kenwood at our meeting, and they said for us to build the system out the way we want it robust like this, they would essentially have to build 4 more towers. The initial thought that we had was we would put a digital repeater on all 4 corners on the fire towers where those repeaters are at. I just don't know as if we're going to get what we could get out of Starcom with that. So
So the 1.98, you're saying if we finance through we're adding on 125 to that?
You're adding 125 to the 1.98.
Right, okay, so that'll put us at 2.1, and then that would be 1.99 for 7 or 10 years.
Correct.
Okay,
For 7, yeah.
For 7.
It'd be slightly higher.
for 7,
Yeah, it'd be
okay.
slightly higher for 10 years.
Then we'd be at 2.
Right.
So the sheriff was just alluding to capabilities in the devices. They are expandable. Alex talked about that too. As other technologies become available, the cellular part of the device is an Android platform. So applications are rampant out there, and so as folks in the public safety realm create new applications, it would be something that the device could run. Things like running a license plate or checking ID or those sorts of things, right? So.
Yeah, I think probably one other thing just to mention as far as the system itself, because it is, Motorola owned and maintained, we're responsible for continually making sure the system is updated. So something that can happen when you get into buying, your own radio system is that you may get into 7-10 years down the road and you need to put all new radio equipment inside the towers. You need to do all new antennas, you need to do new connectivity between the towers, whatever it might be. Whereas this is really kind of Motorola's job to be able to make sure that the system never goes obsolete. So this should be the last time that we're ever all in the same room talking about what radio system you want to be on for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We've had agencies that have been on Starcom since the day it came out almost 20 years ago, and they're still on the same platform.
And if I make one more point about Kenwood, they make great equipment. They used to sell it in a previous life, so we're not knocking that. What we're talking about is capabilities. We spent a little bit of time talking about the fact that our solution provides the improvements and benefits today as soon as the devices are activated and deployed. Kenwood's devices, the handhelds, do not provide Wi-Fi or cellular today. That's something that they say is on their roadmap, but they are not able to commit to a when. You're also going to be waiting with their offering, if it were viable, on the tower construction to gain the benefits and coverage that we're providing from day one. So it's a now and later scenario as well with their offering. So as the sheriff said, we're highly confident that this is the best lifeline for your personnel throughout the county in so many different ways.
So you're able to track the officer. Is there, with the insurance that we just looked at, there's several claims for deer hits. If there would happen to be an accident where the officer's unconscious, is there a way to know that?
Yes. So when you're referring to deer hits, you're talking basically a vehicle hits a deer. Yeah, so actually the mobile radios, so we've included 2 different types of radios in the proposal. There's the portable radios, which is the radio on your hip you can pick up. The mobile radio actually includes a free feature called impact detection, which is specifically designed for that exact use case, where if there's a vehicular collision and the driver is knocked unconscious, it can actually trigger an emergency, letting them know that this person is now unconscious and they've been in a collision. So that exact use case is available, and then they can use the location of the portable radio to determine exactly where they are.
What other instances, say they're on a chase and something happened where they're unable to respond, is there a way that they?
Absolutely. Yeah, so one use case with the exact same portable radios that we're talking about today, we had an incident with the Des Moines police where there was a police officer who got into a foot pursuit with a suspect. And so in the pursuit, he basically got into an altercation with that suspect. His radio was knocked away, his body camera was knocked away. So, obviously in that situation, other officers are trying to get a hold of him, he's not able to respond. In that exact instance, dispatch was able to see, actually we can see exactly where he is. You're all looking in the wrong place. He's actually around the corner in an alleyway. They followed those directions, found where the officer was, still in the altercation. They were to break up before anyone got hurt. So that exact type of use case we really see as not only kind of a nice to have as far as you kind of know where your officers are, how far away your backup is, but also if they're unable to respond, as you mentioned, it's a really powerful way to be able to track where that officer is.
Key critical note though is it's the portable radio. It's not the vehicle GPS. So as we're talking about a foot pursuit or out in the cornfield, right? You're actually locating the portable radio, not where the vehicle is that the officer left in pursuit. So it's much more accurate for the sake of the cavalry coming for help.
The largest selling point between the Motorola product versus the Kenwood is the interoperability. Being able to, if state police, Livingston County, Kankakee County, those that are on STARCOM are able to immediately start working with one another. There's no additional programming need because it's already there.
Patching.
With the Kenwood system, we are segregating ourselves out at least a little bit, because the Kenwood system is going to be a purely, in this particular instance at this date and time, is an analog system. So yes, people can program their radios to join in conversations with us, but other departments are not going to be doing that. There's only so many channels sitting on these radios in the first place. Trying to get them to scan, trying to get them to program when you're in the middle of a instance of a situation is difficult at best, because you're busy trying to focus on what the problem is, not on your radio. So that's the biggest selling point in all of this. I'm not saying that either system is better than one another. Motorola produces a absolutely great product, and you'll never hear me say to the contrary. Kenwood, you've already heard it, makes a great product, but there are very, very large differences in what the product that's being sold today versus tomorrow. Kenwood, it's going to be a little bit for us to get a survey completed. We're still waiting on that. I predicted that it would probably be late November to get that. But are we going to have to make more towers? How much is that going to be? We don't know the cost solution that Kenwood is going to give us. Yes, there's going to be warranties, but with the way that Motorola's got this set up, I think it's a good direction. And it's probably got the most viable. The biggest thing with the STARCOM system as well. If I need to talk to a police officer over the radio in Carbondale, as long as we have a talk group in the radio, we can do that. Cannot do that with our Kenwood system as it is today.
Yeah, I think, one last thing just to add as well, when you're kind of looking in between the two different offerings, one thing that's more of a technology difference just between, the two different offerings is that, without getting too kind of nerdy or into the weeds with this, there's two different main types of, languages that radio systems speak typically in public safety. So there's VHF, which has been around for a while. It's what the sheriff's office uses today for the radio system. And then there's also 7,800 megahertz, which is what most, if not all, modern trunking radio systems use. If you look at all of the statewide systems in the Midwest, all of them use the 7,800 megahertz, which is what we're proposing. So VHF has a lot of kind of downsides to it. It can have a lot of interference. It can be very difficult to expand to and add on channels. So when I talked earlier about how it's very easy to add on additional users should you ever want to down the road, VHF is really not the same case. And so many of the issues that plague the sheriff system today very well could continue to plague the system into the future as well. So you may spend quite a bit of money upgrading the system, but it really may not fix what are some of the core issues that are plaguing the system today, which is all of those will be fixed with a 7,800 megahertz system like we're offering in our proposal. And it's vendor agnostic. It's just completely, it's just a different type of technology.
So to give you an idea, if we were to finance for 7 years, it would put us at financing $2,105,358.76. Minus the $500 or $500,000 grant that the sheriff says he can get, that would put us at $1,605,358. Or I said that totally wrong, sorry. $1,605,358.76. So financing that at 7 years at 1.99 would put us at approximately an annual payment of $245,870.76. Public safety tax fund brings in approximately, I think we were comfortable at the $520,000 a year. That'll give you somewhat of an idea. If you if we choose to finance it through them.
Through that.
So it was roughly $23,000 more annually.
Yeah.
Than the 211 you're looking at.
And if we did it ourselves, how would that mechanically work? I mean, how would we do that?
Don't know,
Okay,
don't know yet.
so.
Because it's not as easy as, hey, we're gonna borrow from this fund, because there's a reason that they're separate funds, because they have separate uses. So,
So
to
we
give
don't
you
even
an
know if-
idea, you may look at the balance sheet that the treasurer's office gives you and be like, oh, well, hey, we have $3 million sitting in our IMRF account. We can't pull that for anything but retirement, for IMRF purposes. In fact, if I recall, prior to me being employed by the county, we were in trouble with that IMRF fund being too low. And we put a lot of money into it to keep it at approximately that 2.5 to 3 million range. The other fund that looks hefty right now is the grant fund. They're grants, they're specific use funds. So I'm not 100% sure what the idea was behind borrowing from ourselves. We do have 523,000 approximately invested in an Illinois money fund that could be pulled at any time as well.
But that's not near enough anyway.
That's not near enough anyways, but it would, on top of the 500,000, it puts you a little closer to maybe having a smaller payment and paying small, less interest if you choose to go that route. So,
So basically, it was a nice idea to fund it ourselves, but not necessarily practical.
no. I mean, I've been saying this for the past 3 years, if we're looking at moving to the Starcom radio, because I think the prior sheriff had said it was gonna be in the millions of dollars. We need to stop the nickel and diming and spending of the public safety tax fund. And, we spend 400 to 475 out of that fund each year. There's some options.
If we finance through you, is there an option to pay it off early?
Always.
Okay. So if we had extra funds in that, we could help our interest.
Or pay it down.
Mhm.
As grants, the sheriff mentioned, he's continuing to pursue grant options.
Okay. And I asked that because we had another situation that we financed where originally we were told we could pay down early, and then they said, well, no, not until after so many years.
So is it a lease to own finance or straight up
No.
financing?
Least own, I believe, yeah.
Okay.
I can
So
confirm that too.
generally,
Easier.
from my experience with lease options, there may be, county's tax exempt, so that's moot. You're committed to the full amount for the term, but certainly you could pay that down or pay it off early. It's just not going to save you any money in the long term. If it's $211 a year and you say, I want to give you $500,000, okay, that's reduces 5 years, it shortens the term, but it doesn't save you money on
It does decrease the total interest we pay.
the, right, it's not interest on the unpaid balance like a traditional home loan or car loan. This is a lease to own option.
Okay, so basically there is no benefit to paying it off early.
Correct. Other than the fact that you'd be rid of a payment sooner. But 1.99% interest is pretty hard to come by these
It
days, anywhere.
So Sheriff, what are you looking for us to do?
I mean, I would have to ask Motorola to come back with their 7-year option.
With the new pricing increase and so on, with the, the quantity increase.
So with when we first started talking about this, I threw out a rough number of this is how many portables, this is how many mobiles that we would need. I wanted to make sure all the area departments were covered, to make sure they were safe. And I also wanted to make sure that we had enough portables, so every year or 2 years, we weren't going to go out and buy another radio or another 2 or 3 radios. So a 5-year plan, if we have this amount of radios, all in one lump sum, that way we can pay those down and hopefully get grant funding for those. We increased the amount of radios by about 4. So,
Portables and then
Yeah.
mobiles as well.
so I wanted to look ahead into the future so we could get this all in one lump sum. We don't have to activate those radios, but that makes that $500,000 that we're able to get more usable. So I just don't want to kick this can further down the road. I just want to make sure that our guys are safe, make sure that they come home at night or in the morning.
I guess, is there something we need to do now? Do we just wanna send it to the full board and you'll have all that stuff ready by then? Or what do we wanna do?
I can have those prices by Tuesday, yes. The 7-year, so you want a 7-year pricing at 1.9%.
Yes.
Okay.
We need to just get this done.
That sounds good to you, John?
I guess so. I think we have until December 15th though to make a final decision on this.
They proposed December 15th as the cutoff date, just because there are some bundling options with the Smart Connect, with the Wi-Fi, with several different things, the GPS. So those are services that you can pick a la carte. But if we do this prior to the end of the year, we can bundle those services and be in on that contract.
And the lease rate.
Lease rate, yeah.
And the lease rate is lower.
It's
Yeah, but-
tied to the
I'd
end
rather
date.
see it go to the full board now, and that way if it gets kicked back for some reason, that gives us another month to do it.
I want it to go to.
Well, that's fine. I mean, and just by waiting until December, we could chew on it or explore other options or whatever, but I guess we can.
Well, I mean, by sending it to the full board now, then if something does come up that somebody's got a question on, it gives us that month to get it taken care of.
Sure. And if we do the financing through them, our first payment would be,
In arrears a year later.
It wouldn't be due until a year from contract signature.
so 2024, December.
So it would be fiscal year 2025, so we could budget that
Yep.
next year.
It might be in your budget now for the next year.
Have to do December 2nd, 2025. That's why.
Why wait until December to do the budget for next year?
Well, we can approve it.
You can always approve it and then we can do a signature in December 2nd.
Right. Yeah. You know,
It's in next year's budget.
does anybody think?
What'd you say, Chad?
This way it's on next year's budget, gives us a year to.
2025.
Budget. Yeah. Gives us a year to get it ironed out. You can always make it earlier for it.
You already have the grant for the 500,000?
I don't have it in my hand, but,
You've already been approved?
so we could take that right off the top. I wonder if we could add that in, if I had the guarantee of that.
So take the 1.98, add the 120, or keep the 125, I'm sorry, put the 125 back in, right?
And then
Which then finance, take 500,000 off the top.
finance.
We can-
and
That would put you at,
remaining.
that would put you at the 1,605,358.76.
Yeah, we can show the financing as like a $500,000 like down payment effectively, and then it would show you what your normal payments would be at that 1.6 that we're talking about.
I think that'd be clean.
How much money is in the public safety tax fund?
Right now, I haven't received my balance sheet from the treasurer's office, but unbalanced, there was I think it was 558,000.
Can our budget be amended to make this work out of that fund?
You have until Tuesday. But if you're not gonna, we're not gonna have to make payments till December of 2024, that's for fiscal year 25, so we could,
You have about a year.
we'd
to work
adjust
on
it in
that.
next year.
So we could amend our budget and we won't have to finance, right?
Well, it would, because of when it would be, it wouldn't be on the budget we're about to approve, it'd be the following year's budget.
Right.
So we wouldn't need to amend anything now, we
Okay.
just budgeted in
I see,
the
I
next
see.
year.
Yeah,
Well, I think that would be the way to go, right? I mean, just budget for it next year, not do financing.
I don't know that we can budget $1.9 million. And one way or the other, we're gonna have to do some kind of financing, I'm sure. But that gives us a year to look at the budget. Now, if we have, I guess we need, and that's what you guys were just discussing. If we pay that or have that 500,000 as a down payment, I didn't hear exactly what the answer was. Does that bring down our interest rate or lease rate or total, or?
The interest rate
The rate
remains.
would remain the same, but you would not be paying interest on that $500,000. So your overall cost of the financing would go down.
you would be financing the 1,605,000
Okay.
versus the 2,105,000. And I estimated that to be around $245,870.76 annually
On the 7 year.
for 7 years.
Thank you.
Anybody on the committee got any other questions?
The sheriff's gotta hustle $20,489 a month to make his payment.
It's at times 12,
$245,000.
easy peasy. Make it happen. I am very, very hungry to find financing outside grants. I really wanna make this happen. I will work diligently, as you've seen me over the last year and a half, to find that. And as you see on the sheets, we are bringing in $208,000, per year.
But that's being used somewhere else, right?
Well, it goes into the general fund.
Yeah.
Goes in the general fund to pay for 3 officers? Oh, you got your additional 3? Two officers. That's right.
As far as other grant, I'm sorry, sir. As far as other grant opportunities, we hear about them often, and I continually send them towards the sheriff for something for him to look into, and that will continue.
So what do we gotta do to bring this full board?
Okay, quick question, is the interest front-loaded or is it by the monthly or annual balance?
It's a lease to own, sir, so I don't understand your question about
The
front load.
interest rate, is it calculated on what the balance is?
Negative,
So it's front-loaded then?
okay. It's a,
Like car loans, where they want all the interest first and then they,
oh,
I'd have to confirm on that.
yeah, that's a financing question.
well, that's what we're talking about.
Understood. So, I'm sorry, I'm not an accountant and neither is Alex, but on a lease to own, I don't know if this answers your question. We talked about there's no benefit to paying it off earlier, so it's not calculated on the unpaid balance,
Okay.
if that is the
Yeah, that's
answer.
basically front-loaded.
Okay.
Yep, I'm confirming on that piece.
Mr. Bauer?
It looks like we got it, we need it for the safety and security of our officers. What do we gotta do to bring it to the board, the full board?
Make a motion.
I move to bring the proposal to the full board for discussion and action pending the updated financing that the sheriff will provide.
I'll second that motion.
Any other questions? If not, we'll take a vote.
Aaron,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Bucks.
Yes.
Okay. Have it ready for the board.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. I
Hopefully
appreciate
it'll
it.
go through this month, if not, gives us a month to get it before the deadline.
Would it be beneficial to have them at the full board
Yeah,
for
it
any
would
questions?
Okay.
Okay.
We'll be there. As someone who has family in public safety, I appreciate your care and concern for those people on the streets protecting the county. It's good to hear. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we don't think any comments came in. Oh, John, we didn't get you yet.
I don't have anything.
Okay. All right, and we are to discussion and action on FY 2024 budget. So, do we just need to have a motion to approve it and send it to the full board? Is that where we're at?
We'll have a separate motion on the agenda at the board meeting.
Yeah.
Just as far as it'll be a separate area for discussion and action on the final approval. So I don't know that you necessarily need to make a motion because it's gonna be on the,
It's already on the agenda.
right,
Full.
right.
Yeah, so
Well, she says we don't have to, it's already gonna be
It's
on
on
there.
the agenda.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I didn't get any feedback from any public or department heads or board members, so it still stands as it stands.
Well, and if there's nothing else we need to do on that, we'll move on.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the claims.
So made.
He made it, you seconded.
Second.
Is there any other discussion on the claims? Go ahead.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Alts,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Watts.
Yes.
All right, is there any old business? It says continue discussion on purchase of Starcom radios. I believe we covered that.
I had one thing, old business. So on this proposal, 211,479, if we sign on to that, find money ourselves, when is that payment due?
December of '24.
December of '24?
Correction, I'm sorry. Did you say finding your own funding?
Yes.
So that would launch milestone payments within the contract. So there would be some portion of the total project cost upfront at the time of order.
Okay.
And then
And then what if it's financed? When would the first payment be due?
if it's financed through Motorola,
Yes.
that would be December of '24.
So either way, it's December of '24.
Negative. If you
No.
sign the contract and self-finance,
Yeah.
very shortly thereafter, Motorola will issue an invoice for a percentage of the total project.
Do we know what that is on Tuesday as well?
We can, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm speaking to the lawyer, but
Yeah.
Okay.
so they're asking for both again.
It's, the plan is broken down. When
Okay.
payments are due.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other old business? Any new business? Oh, wait. Any new business? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Is there a second? Mr. Olson? All in favor?
All right.
All opposed? We are adjourned.